In this tutorial, we're going to be covering the billing for the room. In this particular case, you have to take a broader sense of it. It could be a dwelling or whatever. Now, I want to point out one thing about the billing itself. This assumes that you're billing for the room or any other things, and let's open this up. If you read down here, it says the billing of the portal is used for expenses charged to the client. This is not things that are overhead expenses. We cover that separately in a different screen, where your expenses that are not charged directly or direct billing to a client are accumulated in the expenses area. This is all about individual assignments of expenses to the individual room and person for that particular record. So for example, if we go over to the record here, and I want to point out that, say Ben Franklin's here, maybe once every 6 months, you keep his record in there and you will be able to track all of his expenses over whatever period of time. At the same time, the UDF information supports information as far as what this fellow's like and dislikes are. If you're in a resort area and there's certain things that they like about resorts, like maybe it's even something where we'll talk about this later, the local attractions, you can actually be selling tickets to different things and events. That we have a lot of them in our area, where each hotel has a list of different things that people can pick, and then they charge them as billings to their room. So in this particular case, let's take a look at some of the things that are in here. On this one, you can see where there was a cleaning deposit, and it's a $30 deposit if you have animals that you bring in. This is just something that was actually in the data that I put in and imported back into these records from an actual person that was using this application on an older version. So they had a pet cleaning deposit of $30. They did tax it. And in this particular case, I'm going to point out a couple of things in here. You can go and add items as far as the item screen is concerned. This will take you over there, and what you do is you add a new record for each billing item that you might be charging for. So obviously what you have are different things at different times of the year that have a different rate. You could have different rates for like summer, winter, or whatever rates depending on your area. And then you can have all the items that people may purchase from you. They may be getting tickets to different events. You could actually have one that's called event ticket. And if they're annual things that come every year, maybe you want to have the annual whatever it is and list them in your listings. There is a list view for all these. For example, if you go to the billing items, there's a billing items list view, and this is an example of some of the records that are in there. There's hotel peak, cleaning deposits, hotel peak weeks, and there's another clean and a deposit, for example. These are just a few of the items that you could see in there. If I went over and I said show all items, if they were not all in the screen at the time, and this is important to point out, if you come into a screen and you don't see something, you expect more records, go over and click on the show all records. Somebody may have done a find and not put the records back on the screen in the full selection of all the records. They may have a partial selection. One of the ways to find out if that's true is you can click in any field that has an edit, where the edit would come up. Go down here and click in this, and you can see of the omitted records, if there's a count over on this side, then you don't have all records showing. So you would want to go down and say show all records, and this should be highlighted so you can show all records. When it's in a zero situation, it will not be highlighted. I also include the omit and omit records and the show all in the actual do action buttons that are available here, so it's not too hard to find those. And at the same time, if you're in an individual screen and you want to go first, next, prior, last, you can go to any of those records by just clicking on the buttons in here. You can omit a particular record, and we'll just do that for demonstration purposes. Just click in any field, go down and say omit the record, and you'll see how to take it out. Now, where would you use this? If you did a find or you had a short count of items in here and you wanted to take one out and print some records, or you wanted to omit, say, several of them, and then come back in and say show omitted only, you would come down here and say show omitted, and it'll show the reverse of that. So you can do it either way. It's just a nice little trick that you can use to show or not show things. And then, of course, again, go back and say show all, and they all come back again. So this is part of knowing how to use the application in the correct manner. Now, depending upon what screens you're in, I want to point out, let's go back to the booking screen. You cannot do a find in a booking popover. So you would have to go to the portal records to do that. You can do them on any normal record that's in the area. You could not do a find on this screen in this portal, but you can click on the record, and you have to have at least one record present to click on it to go to that portal, or go to a different record where there is data in there and then click on it. It'll take you into that portal. Or you can go up to the record up here and you can look at the UDF portal this way and see the individual information. And of course in this you can, since you're here, you can do a find and find a particular kind of a record and then see how many records have that same entry in them. And it may be something that you want to use for information related to, say, like animals, or people bring boats, and anything that's in a UDF that you want to look for in other records and see where it occurs, you could do that by using a find. So let's go back over here, go back to customer bookings. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover a little bit more detail in the actual drop-down menus up here and look at what's available. So we said we had the booking calendar, and I'm going to cover that in a few seconds. There's the billings and bookings, which is this same screen, and it's really referring to the data for the client itself. The booking listing we showed. I'm going to cover a data portal over here on this side, and then the UDF listing we just looked at. And then there's a report we're going to be coming to, which is called the booking report by date. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to break it up and show you who arrived and departed on any one date period. And then there's a booking status. These are all lists down in here. So that's all the booking items on this screen that we're concerned with. So let's go ahead, and at this point, what we're going to do is one more screen I'm going to cover over the booking and billings, and I'm going to show you some of the things about the booking. As you add data in here for each item that's going to be booked, it will automatically, as soon as you click off and click on any area in the back side of the record, what it's going to do is it's going to update the information at the top of the screen. So for example, if I added another row and it didn't update, just tap anywhere on the base screen and it'll update the calculations here. As you're looking at this, you'll see that there's a date, and it's again a scrolling field when you drop it down. This item ID, as we were talking about before, can be edited. You can add as many items as you want, and the actual name for the item will also come across as soon as you add that particular item. Then it's just a matter of putting the count amount in here for the quantity. In this case, it's one deposit for 25. There's 11% interest rate, so $2.75 in taxes. And then the subtotal is $25, and then it's $27.75 for the total. And if I wanted to say, for example, if there was a row in here and the entry was incorrect and I had to change it, click on the portal record row and you can delete it in this record. And you can verify the information by looking at it before you delete it, that this is the record you want to delete. Now, I want to point out, if you're going to ever delete a record, do not do it in the portal. Always come to the portal record and delete it in the portal record, or it will not correctly update the math in the screen. So you do not want to do it unless you are in this record to do a delete. So let's go back. In this record now that we've gone through that, let's do one more. Like I said, I was going to do the room setup. The room setup is more or less going to a record that you want to view, where the other ones on the listing that we looked at already does not take you to an actual edit record as far as wanting to edit it. So if I wanted to go to room record number 110, I can go over there, and you can see here it doesn't have any image of the room in it, but I may want to edit this area here. Now be aware that if you edit it here, it edits it everywhere you edit it here. So if you're going to have something that's unique to one record, for example, one bedroom king kitchen for 10, the only thing you would want to change in there is something that is changed for permanent for all the records. Don't just make an arbitrary type of a thing, a movement in there and edit something that now is not going to be correct for other records that are in there. Now, I suggest what you do when you're putting in these records, and this guy didn't do it, is always space them so that they space like this. That way they run linear in the information so you can see it all at one time. If you put a return on it, it's not going to show up correctly in certain areas. So make sure you always do that. Now, because rooms can be kind of odd, you can use alpha and whatever characters in here, but be aware that it's going to sort by the way you do it. So if you're in room 2A, it'd go room 2, then room 2A, and so forth, and the listing would be set up that way. You add a new record for each room. Do not repeat a same room number for this information in here. What it will do is it'll cause issues later on if you have more than one record with the same room number. So you do not want to put in multiple room numbers of the same numerics that are in there. It'll throw off the counts and reports and everything like that. So make sure that it's unique when you add it in here. Okay, let's go back. That covers pretty much what we just wanted to see here, the room billing and the room setup. Next thing we're going to talk about is the payments that are related to the room billing. So let's go to the next video, next tutorial. Thank you.